In this video, I'm going to show you how to compare fractions when they have different denominators. So we've looked at comparing fractions before, but this time we are going to use the lowest common denominator to help us compare these fractions. So we're trying to work out which is bigger, 1/3 or 2/8. So I've got my fractions written here, and we'll come to the models that I've drawn in just a moment. So there are a few steps which we need to follow, and if you follow these steps, the process will be nice and simple for you. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find the lowest common denominator. So step 1, lowest common denominator. Now, whilst I write that, can you just familiarise yourself with which number is the denominator? Is it the top of the fraction or the bottom? So the denominator is the bottom of the fraction. So we have 3 and 8. Now we know they are different numbers, so we can't do anything with these fractions until we have changed that. When I say the lowest common denominator, I mean the lowest multiple of 3 and 8. Okay, so we need to find out which number 3 and 8 can both be multiplied into, and we want to find the first possibility, so the lowest one. So we're going to look at the times tables. So if you look at your 3 times tables now and your 8s, and we're going to go down until we have a match. So we can see that 24 is in the 3 times table, so 3 times 8 is 24, and 24 of course is also in the 8 times table. We just flip it, so it would be 8 times 3 is 24. So we're going to convert these fractions to have the same denominator. Okay, so step 2 will be convert your fractions. And in this instance, it's going to be over 24. So we looked at this in the previous week, so we know how to convert our fractions. So we are going to find equivalents. So 1/3, I'll do this in different colours so you can see. 1/3 equals something over 24. So we've created a missing number, and we know how to solve that. And we know that 1/2/8, is something over 24. Now we know what we do to the bottom we must do to the top. So 3 times 8 makes 24. So you're going to multiply 1 by 8. 1 times 8 is 8. We now need to do the same to the other fraction, okay, but we're going to look at the relationship between 8 and 24. So we're not going to multiply 8 by 8, we're going to look at what we need to multiply it by to get 24. So 8 times 3 is 24, using that missing information knowledge, which means you do the same to the top as you do the bottom. 2 times 3, and that makes 6. So we now have 2 new fractions. They are equivalent fractions, so we've not pulled out any random numbers. These fractions are the same, they are equivalent, but it allows us now to compare them. Now they have the same denominator, okay, because step 1 we had to find the lowest common denominator. We have now converted the fractions. So we have 8/24 and 6/24. So what we can do is we can go ahead and we can annotate that on our models. So for the thirds, we will colour every third square, and by the end of it we should have 8 coloured. So we'll go ahead, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you look at the pattern, you just know there needs to be 2 gaps in between. Okay, so we go ahead and there should be 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that all matches up, we're happy with that one. We're now going to colour or annotate our second model, and that will be for 2/8. So I'll do it in green so it matches and you can see. And by the end of this, we should have 6 out of the 24 squares coloured. So for every 8 squares, we will colour 2. So 1, 2, continue counting, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, just check, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if we count now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6 coloured, so we know that is also correct. So the final step that we need to do is we need to work out which is biggest. So we compare them. and we look at our question, which is biggest? You might also be asked which is smallest, in which case you would just go for the lower number. So, which is larger, 8 or 6? We can say that because their denominators are the same now. Both denominators are 24. So you can either look at the numbers and decide which is biggest, or if you need a bit more of a visual representation, look at the bar models, which has more coloured in. The top model has 8 coloured in, and the bottom model has 6 coloured in. So we know that 8/24 or 1/3 is bigger than 6/24, which is 2 8s. So 1/3 is biggest. I could also flip that around. If the question said which is smallest or which is smaller, we would then say that 2 8s, so you revert back to the original fraction, or 6/24 is, let's move that out of the way, smaller. So you have seen a visual representation, you've seen the pictorial model, and you've also seen the written method where you can compare just the numbers. So just to recap, when comparing fractions which have different denominators, you need to find the lowest common denominator. So that is the lowest multiple, which is appropriate to both denominators. You then need to convert those fractions, so find their equivalents using the lowest common denominator. So there is a direct link between step 1 and 2. And then finally, step 3, you can compare which is biggest. And you can either draw a bar model for that, which is the pictorial method like we have done, or you could just compare using those numerators. As long as the denominator is the same, you can compare using numerators. So we know that 8/24 is larger than 6/24, so 1/3 is larger than 2 8s. Go ahead and have a go.